movies lately?
I may have seen one this past weekend.
Like there's any other movies out there that people like us would be watching?
Yeah, I may have seen one this past weekend. Yeah, yeah.
They
May have
might.
seen it because, but I was planning to see it anyway,
Yeah.
even though you told me to.
There might be another movie or two that some other unclear thinkers out there might would have seen, but then they wouldn't be listening to this show now, would they? Hello, unclear thinkers. I'm Larry Smoke again, here to tickle your ears and hopefully stimulate your thinking a little bit. That guy over there is John Bates. Say hello,
Hello.
John. There he
Hello.
said hello. Yeah, so the big one of the weekend, we've been waiting for, well, we were officially waiting for it for what, about 2.5 years, but in a sense, we've been waiting for it our whole lives.
Yep.
Batman and Superman on the screen together. Did we ever think we'd live to see the day?
Uh, well, not in a good form. I certainly never did. No.
Or respectfully done.
Yes.
That good part is a lot of debate going on.
And when I was 15, I would have thought anything that had Batman and Superman on the screen together was good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have probably been very, very wrong about it.
Well, you've heard all the hullabaloo about it leading up to it, of course, and
Yep.
everybody, the society at large, has seen it, and there is so much bad and good word of mouth about it. And let's be honest, probably a little bit more bad than good. But I've seen it twice. You've seen it just the once, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I should have seen it twice, and we'll talk about that in a second.
All right.
But okay, Rotten Tomatoes, critics 28%, audience 72%.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big shift.
Yeah.
Most people who see it like it, unless you're a professional who's paid to see movies.
Well, there are a lot of people that aren't paid to see it that have bad things to say about it, and I mean, let's face it, the Transformers movies get lousy Rotten Tomatoes ratings, and yet they make hundreds of millions into the billions, so somebody likes them.
Yeah.
Not that I'm about to compare this to a Transformers movie, don't get me wrong.
So we're just barely past the opening weekend. Worldwide, they're at almost $500 million in like 5 days.
Yeah.
The opening weekend for the show was almost 170 million domestic.
Mm-hmm.
That's a powerful movie no matter what.
Yes, and just to play devil's advocate, that 166 million was domestic weekend. 3/4 of that was Friday to Saturday. It had a massive drop off. Matter of fact, I believe, and I can't remember whether it was Collider or where I read this morning that Batman v Superman had the biggest Friday to Sunday drop off of any superhero movie ever.
Well,
so the bad word of mouth is affecting it.
Well, yes, and it was also Easter weekend, so
and there is that.
Actually, Easter.
Mm-hmm.
Families doing things together, maybe not going to the movie. So that could explain something. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, of course, we're talking about just domestically. This movie's playing around the world on day of release, which once upon a time you didn't have that. Studios would roll out movies over time across the world, whereas now this movie opened everywhere. So I think it'll make it. If it doesn't crack $1 billion, it'll be sniffing at it.
Yeah.
And conventional wisdom is the movie had to break $1 billion or make $1 billion, to justify the rest of the DC Universe slate that Warner Brothers has in mind.
All right. So simple impression: yay or nay?
Mine is yay.
Mine too.
It is not a screaming, frothing at the mouth yay, but it's a yay without any reservation.
Right. I enjoyed the movie. There were some issues I had with it, but overall, I definitely would like to go see it again. In fact, I almost feel like I have to go see it again, which is one of the negatives I had, which is so much freaking happens in this movie that I couldn't take it all in.
Well, let's do it this way. Let's do the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All right.
Let's take it that way. Let's start off with the good. What did we like about the movie? You go first.
One of the good things was that DC is finally decided, hey, we're going to actually have a timeline where one movie will connect to another movie rather than putting it in a trilogy, Batman trilogy, Superman trilogy, whatever the case may be. This movie picks up from the last Superman movie, and it's 2 years later, and consequences are happening because of that. I like that very much.
Yeah.
Beautifully filmed, interesting characters, a nice folding in of things, nice leading up to, foreshadowing, all kinds of interesting things there. Plus, as a geek, it was really cool to see these characters that and as a geek, I have to tell you, I recognize the storylines.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this
Oh yeah.
storyline. Now they combine 3 or 4
Well,
different
yeah.
storylines. From the
I think it's great that Warner Brothers / DC / Zack Snyder can cherry pick all of the greatest hits, so to speak, from these comic storylines that we grew up reading, and place them in whatever order they want to give us
Right.
a movie story that's unique but familiar at the same time.
Yep. Now they did pick the darkest storylines they could possibly find.
They picked the more adult fare, yeah.
Yes. Well, it's dark. You cannot deny that the Frank Miller Batman Dark Knight
Oh, yeah.
was incredibly dark.
Mm-hmm. And
that's where
his
the
year
whole-
one story too. Yeah.
And that's where the whole Batman versus Superman thing came from. And you can't deny that the whole Doomsday thing was an incredibly dark. As far as Superman comics go, I can't think of anything
About
much
as dark as it
darker.
got.
Yeah. No spoilers, but
Well, let's.
yeah, we can do spoilers.
Yeah,
If you're listening to this,
anybody
stop.
listening to us, once they see the headline of this episode, they've been warned. So you're on your own, people.
We're gonna spoil it. So
Well, I agree with the visual loveliness of it. I think Zack Snyder has proven with 300, with Watchmen, with Sucker Punch, he can make a pretty picture.
Yep.
He is a visual director.
he is.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get to the bad. I think Ben Affleck is the home run of this movie. I think all of the haters who erupted in rage at the announcement of his casting have been shut up.
did a great job.
I will indignantly stand before everyone and say I was not one of those people. Now, I was not one who was saying it was a genius piece of casting, he'll be perfect, but I did say from the moment it was announced, well, I'm willing to see what happens with that. And I'm glad to say that my patience paid off, that I think he was fantastic in what he was asked to do.
Well, I think that Ben Affleck has long been a very excellent actor who got sidetracked and decided he wanted to go the movie star route and picked a whole bunch of crappy roles for a while.
He's definitely reinvigorated his career when he decided to step behind the camera a little bit too. I think he's really proven his versatility.
Yep. Cavill did an excellent job.
I think I was drawing the breath to say I think Cavill did just as good a job here as he did in Man of Steel. Now, I don't think he showed as much range in this movie as he did in Man of Steel, but I don't think that story asked him to show as much range as Man of Steel's story did.
Right. He almost seemed a secondary character in this movie to me.
Yeah. Well, and I believe that was a little bit of intention on Warner Brothers' part. Warner Brothers, somewhere toward the last hour of production, decided we really need to make this a Batman-centric story for promotional sake, to draw in the audiences they felt they needed to financially justify the picture.
Yeah.
I thought Gal Gadot did fine with what she was given to do. I know, just like with Affleck, there was a lot of here's one I'll admit to. I was very concerned about the announcement of her casting. What little bit of acting we've seen from her, the Fast and Furious, Fast 5 and 6, ain't been good.
Well, it was a fast. They don't really ask you to stretch a lot.
Exactly. So that's why I was. I guess we'll have to see it. Now she looks the part. I think she looks fantastically like an appropriate cinematic Wonder Woman. And again, what Zack Snyder and the screenplay gave her to do, I thought she pulled off very well. Admittedly, she only had 16 lines of dialogue.
Right. They didn't give her a lot, so we don't really know how stretchy she
We'll
is.
find that out next summer in the Wonder Woman solo movie. I was talking to the wife when we left the first viewing of it. I heard a lot of people concerned about her Israeli accent, and would she be able to muffle that, mute that, change it for the part. She still had a peculiar accent, and it was probably mostly her natural tone of voice. But I kind of thought that made things more interesting. We're talking about a character who's been alive for 5,000 years.
And raised on an island where they didn't speak English.
Well,
Yes,
that
exactly.
too. But what I'm getting at is, if she's lived 5,000 years, she's lived through Lord knows how many cultures, been around Lord knows how many kinds of speech. Our speaking patterns are always affected by what we live around.
Right.
Well, she's lived around that many. There's no telling what her accent would be after living 5,000 years of hearing all these dialects. So whatever Israeli accent sounds like may be appropriate.
Yeah, I thought it was appropriate that she had a vague and vaguely unplaceable proto-Mediterranean accent.
Exotic accent, yeah.
Yeah, and Israeli accent, Greek accent, it's Mediterranean. It's I'm sure the Israelis and the Greeks are lining up to burn me right now, but that's okay. I'm gonna call it a Mediterranean accent and go with it. So.
And I think all the action set pieces were done terrifically. I thought the surprise baddie at the end before the standoff between Batman and Superman, I thought the CGI was done so well that it didn't shockingly stand out to me as, oh, that's CGI. We see enough movies that I can tell CGI when I see it.
Well, yeah.
But I thought this CGI was well done. In that respect, yeah. I thought, I guess that harkens back to the visuals.
Yeah, it kind of had to be CGI because there aren't actually any 15-foot tall rock and spike monsters that you can film.
The last we looked.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So we thought it was a fun picture to look at, and we thought the people in it, the leads in it, did well. Now for the bad.
All right. First thing I had was maybe I'm just a little tired of Zack Snyder's slow motion-y style, but I got really tired of that. I mean, Superman had 2 speeds, really slow and heroic, or blindingly fast so that you couldn't see him. Okay, we're going to save the rocket. I'm going to fly it out of the flames looking all grim, holding it over my head. I'm going to drag a freaking ship across the polar ice pack step by step. If there's anybody on that ship, they're probably like, dude, can you run or something? Because I could walk across the ice myself.
I didn't even think about any of that until you now mention it. But now that you mention it, I'm thinking, you're right. It was 2 speeds. It was real fast or real slow.
And it was always Superman. Yeah. Batman moved, but Superman was either stationary, hovering in the air, or he was so fast you couldn't see him move. So that was one of my gripes. And maybe that's just, like I said, maybe I'm just a little over Zack Snyder at the moment. Mm-hmm. It worked well for 300, and I understand why he wants to do it. It makes heroic moments look a little more heroic. Yeah. But I got tired of seeing Superman pose all the time.
I think the biggest bad for me. Well, let me back up. A lot of people are saying that the biggest bad in this flick is the screenplay. I agree, but I don't think that's all of it. I think it's a combination of the screenplay could have been tighter, but maybe it was. As we all know, this Warner Brothers has already said we're going to get a 3-hour R-rated edit of this movie on home video.
Yep.
So there's a half hour of this movie we haven't seen yet. And Zack Snyder has, as recently as I believe it was Saturday, has said he kind of wanted that 3-hour cut to be the theatrical release. It was Warner Brothers that said we can't run a 3-hour flick 7 times a day. We need it down to 2.5 so we can get more shows per day and make this $1 billion we need to make. So I understand that. I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
And they recently released a cut scene involving Lex Luthor.
Yeah, that 45 seconds. I was going to mention that too.
Yep.
Yes, the screenplay as we saw it was bad, and it may have been bad on paper, but I'm almost convinced that once we see that 3-hour cut, a lot of the complaints about the, air quotes here, screenplay are going to be alleviated. There were scenes in this movie that, for example, the scene that we saw in the trailer umpteen times, the bat suit being revealed from behind this sliding curved door, and Bruce Wayne standing there with this grim, lockjawed, bottled rage determination as he looked at the suit. All right, that shot was in the movie. Think back, what was right before and right after that 10-second shot that told us why he was standing there looking at that bat suit at that moment? There was nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Right, that scene stuck out like a sore thumb because of the way it was edited. There's got to be something before and or after that shot to explain why he's standing there looking. And that's just one example. There are several others. There are lots of moments in this film where there are characters doing things or saying things that I'm thinking to myself, especially after the first viewing, thinking to myself, well, how did he know that? Or how did he get there? The nightmare scene, the Bruce
Oh,
Wayne's nightmare. That scene started with a hard cut. I mean, it went from him
yeah.
looking at a computer monitor straight. There was no transition to communicate to the audience. Okay, we're entering a dream, another reality, a fantasy, a thought. It was a hard cut, and we were just supposed to instantly realize, oh, he's dreaming. Well, we really didn't realize that until he was coming out of the dream.
Yeah, that was a problem I had too. Is
And
that
again, that's editing.
the dream sequences, the flashbacks, the dream flashbacks. That was everybody had them, and they just kept happening.
Mhm.
It was like, okay, we're gonna almost start with a dream sequence. Oh yeah, it's a dream sequence. We get that now. I got it. It's a dream sequence. Okay, we're going with the movie. Oh, we're in another dream sequence. I didn't know this was a dream sequence because they didn't tell me it was a dream sequence, but I can figure out it's a dream sequence now
Yeah.
because the dream sequence thing is kind of happening. And then, oh, here's another dream sequence, and now it's Superman's having a dream sequence, and now Batman. I don't know if that's a dream sequence or what the hell's happening with his computer monitor because somebody's reaching out and screaming something like, "Save the cheerleader, save the world," and I don't understand what the hell was going on there. So yeah, that was an issue I had. There was
There were a lot of parts of the, well, I say a lot. There were several parts of the film where the movie was assuming we could keep up, and for the most part, I felt like I kept up, but I was trying to keep up, and that hindered.
That's why I need to see the movie again. It was not only so much happening, but it was not as tightly scripted as it could have been. So you had to really pay attention, and you had to connect some dots yourself.
I did not really understand Lex Luthor's motivation for hating Superman until the second viewing. I flat missed his explaining to the senator about his grandfather throwing flowers at the dictator because it was delivered so quickly. And again, that may be an editing thing, that may be an acting choice on Jesse Eisenberg's part, that may be a direction from Snyder, I don't know. But whichever may be the case, I missed that exposition the first time. It went so fast.
Well,
so I spent the rest of the movie wondering, well, why do you hate Superman in the first place?
They had three different motivations for Lex Luthor there. They had that one. My grandfather was under the heel of a Hungarian dictator. They had my father was a horribly abusive man who has
I got that part.
Damaged me.
Yeah.
And they also had, he was actually on the verge of a psychological break at some point. You know, when he was giving his speech and he suddenly lost his train of thought and wandered off into nothing. That was, clearly showing, oh, there's something wrong with him.
Mark
this dude's going
Zuckerberg
crazy.
with Asperger's, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Another problem I had, and I'm sure you're going to want to talk about Lex Luthor, but I'll talk about something else. First, two related things. One, Batman was a jerk. He was a jerk the whole movie. He just was mad the whole time at Superman. And hey, I'm not saying that it was without cause. There was some guilt things going on there, but yeah, he was not an overly likable Batman.
I agree completely, but that didn't bother me because I understood why.
Yeah, and he was also a Batman who was completely willing to shoot people and blow them up.
And again, yeah, I can see how people would take issue with that, and this is one aspect I thought the movie did a good job of explaining character motivation. I could understand why, at that point in his life, he was like that.
Right.
That Batman 10 years earlier probably wouldn't have been that way.
Right, because Batman has always been the guy who does not kill.
But we're to presume that something happened to Robin. We heard him explain to Alfred how many good guys remain that way. Apparently, Bruce/Batman has met with a lot of other forms of defeat in his life. He is an older, jaded, worn down, tired, middle-aged man, and
Angry,
at that point in his life doesn't care. And I think the events of this movie and leading into Justice League will show him beginning to care again.
And the other related problem I had was that both of our main heroes were not overly clever people. They completely both got manipulated by Lex Luthor. And at the end, when it was, Superman's going to Batman, Batman is clearly ready for a fight. Superman, all he has to do is hover in the air and say, okay, I was a bit of a jerk. Let me talk to you. My mom's been kidnapped. All right, I need you. My mom has been kidnapped. That's instead of landing on the ground, walking through all those traps, and then every time he gets in a trap, he doesn't say, "Whoa, whoa, mom's been kidnapped." He just keeps, "I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you." And then Batman gets up in his face, doesn't hit him. He didn't actually attack him. He just got up in his face, and Superman knocked him back about 3 city blocks. Okay, that was an avoidable fight.
That is a screenplay deficiency. That's not editing. That's not, that's a screenplay deficiency.
Yeah, so Superman wasn't clever, and Batman was. I mean, Batman is supposed to be like the super genius dude, and he just got played all the way around.
Were you like me? In all the years we've been reading comics, 30 years or better, I honestly admit I never put two and two together. I never realized, I never made the connection that Superman and Batman's mother had the same first name.
I didn't notice it either.
I mean, I've known what both of them's names were, but I just never, they're the same thing. Never, not once.
It didn't occur to me. And even in the movie, they highlighted.
Yes!
They didn't show his dad's name at all. They didn't show Thomas Wayne on a grave marker. They showed Martha's name. And
telegraphing
then they spoke to Martha Kent. And then they showed Martha's name in a flashback. And they spoke to Martha Kent. And it wasn't until, "Why did you use that name?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that's both your mom's name."
Well, let's get to the ugly before we get off too much of a tangent. So what? I guess ugly is stemming off of bad, but I was halfway mentally saving this point because I do think this was the ugliest part of the film. We talked about how maybe you too, were not horribly offended or upset by Ben Affleck's casting or Gal Gadot's casting. From the day it was announced, I was horribly concerned about Jesse Eisenberg's casting. And I was right on that one. He was the wrong choice.
I get what they were going for, but you said it earlier. Basically, he was kind of a crazy Zuckerberg.
He was Mark Zuckerberg with Parkinson's or Asperger's or something.
Yeah, he was recreating his character from The Social Network, except he was giving it sort of a hyperactive. I'm crazy. Look how
I'm not going to say that the son of the man who created the Luthor Empire and was a tech genius. I'm not going to say that concept couldn't have been pulled off. But Eisenberg didn't do it, and and Eisenberg is a one-note actor. His performances tend to be in the same range. And that being said, I tend to enjoy the things he does. As a rule, he picks roles that suit his personality, his acting method, his style. So as a rule, I like him on screen. This one was just a misfire. Whether it was his mistake in accepting it or Snyder's mistake in thinking that this was the guy to pull off my particular vision. I think that villain just really took away from the sense of doom that I would presume we're supposed to feel as the villain starts to get his way toward a climax of a film.
I think it was a couple of things. I think, Zack Snyder really likes his villains to be over the top. I mean, I can't think of any Zack Snyder films where the bad guys aren't right in your face, a little bit over the top, a little bit.
Xerxes and 300.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that Jesse Eisenberg was like, you know what? I want to do something as cool as the Joker. So I'm going to play Lex Luthor kind of like the Joker, except in a cool and hip way Joker, like Mark Zuckerberg as the Joker. That's what it was. I was reading it as the whole time. I'm a little frantic. I'm a little, you can't quite tell where I'm coming from. I'm a little dangerous, and I'm threatening you while I'm smiling and making jokes. And I'm talking about happy, you kind of expected him to say, wait till they get a load of me. But yeah, I agree. That was an issue. It wasn't a horrible issue for me because it wasn't like he was omnipresent throughout the movie. He was a tying thread, but he wasn't omnipresent. And there was plenty of other things to keep, like do a little bit of Lex Luthor, and then we'd have another dream sequence. So I'd have to pay attention to the damn dream sequence, and I could forget about Lex Luthor.
Well, I don't know how much of a factor he'll play into Justice League, if at all. But I don't think you can recast him. I think you're kind of stuck with him.
Yeah.
So if he plays any factor in the Justice League movie, I hope that he and Snyder and the screenwriters will come up with some alteration or some modification or some way of softening, honing that performance that it comes off as less irritating.
Well, no, they've made him crazier now. Now he's even more like the Joker. Ding, ding, ding.
Which gets
Ding, ding,
gets
ding.
us back to, and now we're back to screenplay and editing. There's so much of the last act of that film, and his actions are just, the motivation for his actions are just beyond me. And we briefly mentioned this 45 seconds that Warner Brothers released on YouTube yesterday is just a hint of how much of his motivation I believe will be filled in by this missing footage. That 45 seconds that we saw on YouTube yesterday, we're recording this on Tuesday, March 29th. So it was yesterday, Monday the 28th, that this footage was released. And it's just 45 seconds, and yet it explains so much of what Luthor was talking about when he was babbling at Batman in the prison cell at the very end, which, I don't know about you, but both times I saw it in the theater, I'm watching that scene, and I'm wondering, well, how in the heck does he know all this to be babbling about it?
Yep.
And that 45 seconds answers it all.
And they could have stuck the 45 seconds in there. That wouldn't have been that hard.
Ridley Scott once cut a scene out of Gladiator, and for the home video version, he put it back, and in the commentary, he was saying that, I love this scene. Why did I cut it? It was a minute. It's 60 seconds. And it's those kind of decisions. I don't make films for a living. I have no experience as a filmmaker. But as a layman, you have to wonder, how much difference to a running time can 60 seconds make?
Well, yeah, but if you're like 60 seconds here, and I really like this scene, 60 seconds here. I mean, if you've been given a hard time, and you're like, I need to get it down to 2.5 hours rather than 3. Then maybe you're like, well, this will be explained in the next movie. The problem is it if you screw up this movie too much, there might not be a next movie.
It might not be a next one.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the Wonder Woman movie because just that photo they showed, that photo made me interested in the movie. Now that little shoehorned in, let me see what the rest of the Justice League thing looks like. That bugged me a little bit.
That was shoehorned in.
You could tell.
Yeah,
I mean, that was like, hey, let me. Oh, look at the symbols. I can recognize each one of the. Oh, now not only let me show the symbols, let me click on a video and show you what we're talking about.
Isn't it nice that LexCorp has graphic designers to come up with symbols for these folks on this on this secret footage?
Yeah.
That was kind of, rumor has it that sequence was shot months and months after principal photography wrapped. So it was almost literally, if the rumors are true, then it was almost literally shoehorned in.
Yeah,
but I understood the purpose it served, so it didn't take me out of the movie. But yes, it definitely felt like it was stuck in there.
Yeah, it just was a little beat you over the head with it. Like I said, if they just shown it and they'd shown the symbols, then the people who knew would know. Oh, look, there's the stuff for the Justice League movie. But no, let me click on it and show you very clearly the Flash, and then let me show you Aquaman, and hell. I didn't realize it was Cyborg until much later. I was like, who's the dude stuck to the board?
I think the Cyborg one could have been done a little bit better, but I mean, the casual movie audience isn't going to know who Cyborg is anyway, so it's not like they're missing anything.
The left out clip that we have been referring to, Steppenwolf, you think?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I hope that's not their version of Darkseid, because it doesn't look like Darkseid.
No. I mean, well, because he was cast in that Kryptonian dot matrix visual type that we saw so much of in Man of Steel, it did throw it visually just enough that I don't think comic geeks like us could be instantly sure, but I'm reasonably certain that was Steppenwolf.
Yeah, I looked him up, and in the comics, he wore a helmet like that horned thing. And those might have been mother boxes. So I'm thinking Darkseid would be an excellent, or Steppenwolf be an excellent main villain for the Justice League movie. Frankly, I'm looking forward to Wonder Woman more at this point.
Yeah, well, that's what we're getting. Guess what we're getting? Oh, we're getting Suicide Squad next. So that's what we're getting next.
I'm really looking forward to Suicide Squad, even though,
But Wonder Woman's the next one in the Justice League gathering that we'll see. So I'm looking forward to that too. So what's your, if you had to give it a numerical grade, 1 to 10, what would you say?
8, maybe a 9.
That's strong.
I liked it a lot. I will buy it when it comes out, and it'll have all the unreleased footage, and I'll be able to see all that stuff, and I'll probably like it even more there. Like I said, I probably would like to go see it again, just so I can make sure I've got all the details right in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So much happened that by the time I came out of the movie, it was difficult for me to remember specific things other than those really, really pretty Zack Snyder, let me have somebody pause here for a moment scenes.
It takes some digesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'll give this edit a 7. And I freely admit that I'm giving that 7 more emotionally than I am rationally. Because I can certainly understand how a more casual moviegoer would give it a lower score, would enjoy it less. I would hope that they enjoy it as much as I did, but I could certainly understand why they wouldn't. Now, I also reserve the right to give this 3-hour edit that we're promised before the end of the summer a higher grade, and I expect I will. I'm still firmly convinced that that extra half an hour is going to make a world of difference to this movie. But the movie that we saw, I have no problem giving it a 7. I think 7 out of 10 is a good score myself. I mean, I think a movie that entertains me 70% is doing a good job. And I've seen it twice and would be happy to see it a third time if I got the opportunities.
Well, like I said, I'm not a complete believer in the single number metric, but 72% is Rotten Tomatoes moviegoers viewing, so that's 7 out of 10 right there.
Yep.
So the world seems to agree with you at this point, and I always rate high. And if Chris were here, he would take my 8 as meaning that this movie was absolute trash because I didn't give it a 10. But yeah, good movie.
Well, folks out there, tell us what you think. We'd be curious to hear what you think of our horrible opinions or our great opinions. Comments below in the YouTube section if you're listening to us on YouTube. Email to us, unclearthinking@gmail.com. You can scream at us directly if you'd like. John, you have a Twitter. Don't you tell them about it?
I do. It is CUHULLEN. That is Kuhullen at twitter.com.
And you can do the same thing for me. My Twitter is @LASmoke. And of course, we'll have this episode and show notes at the website unclearthinking.com. And as usual, we'd love it if you guys went to iTunes and gave us a rating. That would really help a lot. We really appreciate it.
And we'd really like it even more if it was a 5.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up for the night.
Thank you for paying attention to us if you did. If you didn't, well, you're not hearing this anyway.
We'll see you folks next time.